They handed my sister the entire company, so I walked away. Days later, Dad pleaded with me to save a $10 million 0-cents deal they botched. I replied, "Let your star CEO daughter sort it out." The rain came down in sheets, hammering the glass walls of my corner office at Harper Designs like it wanted to drown Seattle whole. It was past midnight, the kind of hour where the city's pulse slows to a murmur. But I was still here, hunched over my laptop, the blue glow burning my eyes. My name is Emily Harper, 34 years old, Chief Strategy Officer of the architectural firm that bears my family's name. For 12 years, I've poured my soul into this place, believing it was my destiny, my empire. But tonight, a single email hidden in the company server shattered that dream, exposing a betrayal so raw it felt like a blade twisting in my chest. I wasn't supposed to find it. I was running a routine security sweep, something I'd done 100 times to protect our multi-million-dollar project bids from cyber vultures. Harper Designs isn't just any firm. It's a titan in the Pacific Northwest, known for sustainable skyscrapers that pierce the clouds and urban plans that breathe life into concrete. My father, William Harper, built it from a cramped drafting office in Pioneer Square into a powerhouse that shaped Seattle's skyline. I grew up in its shadow, sketching floor plans at 9, answering client calls at 14, his voice always in my ear. "This empire will be yours, Emily." That promise was my North Star. The reason I turned down glittering offers from firms in London and Sydney. The reason I let 2 serious relationships crumble and missed my cousin's funeral to secure a $5 million 0-cents contract. I wasn't just working for a paycheck, I was building a legacy. But that email changed everything. Tucked away in a mislabeled folder marked archive_2023, it was a draft from my father to our family lawyer, dated 6 months ago. The subject line was innocuous, ownership transition, but the words inside were a gut punch. Transfer 75% of my shares to Olivia R. Harper, effective immediately. Retain 20% for myself, 5% for Claire. Finalize by Q2. Olivia, my sister, gone 15 years chasing her art dreams in Paris, hadn't set foot in this office since she was a teenager. I read it again, my pulse hammering, hoping I'd misread. But there it was, notarized, signed, no mention of me. Not a footnote, not a whisper. The empire I'd bled for was being handed to a stranger who shared my last name. The storm outside roared louder, lightning cracking the sky like it was mocking me. I slammed my laptop shut, my hands trembling. How could he do this? My father, the man who'd clapped my shoulder after every late-night strategy session, who'd called me his rock during the 2020 recession when I slashed costs by 35% with AI-driven design tools and tripled our revenue in 5 years. I'd been the one turning on the office lights at 5 a.m., the one who knew every client's kids' names, the one who'd made Harper Designs a name whispered in awe from Portland to Vancouver. And now, this? I stood, pacing the polished hardwood floor, my reflection distorted in the rain-streaked windows. Seattle's skyline glittered beyond, a testament to my work. The eco-friendly Meridian Tower, the community-driven Cascade Plaza, all my designs. I'd given everything to this firm, and for what? To be erased? My phone buzzed on the desk, a text from an unknown number. "Check the vault. You're not safe." My breath caught. The vault? The high-security safe in the basement, accessible only to me, my father, and our accountant, Elliot. Who sent this, and why now? I grabbed my coat, the warning gnawing at me. The office was a ghost town, the hum of the HVAC the only sound as I took the elevator down to the basement. The vault's steel door loomed under flickering fluorescence, its keypad glowing red. My fingers hesitated, the anonymous text replaying in my mind. What was I about to find? I punched in the code. The lock hissed, and the door swung open. Inside, amidst stacks of contracts and hard drives, was a black folder, unmarked. I opened it, and my heart stopped. A notarized share transfer, identical to the email, but with a cryptic note. Paris agreement finalized. Olivia to lead. Paris agreement? What did Olivia do in Paris that convinced my father to hand her my future? I shoved the folder into my bag, my mind racing. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a conspiracy. Someone wanted me out, and the hacked server last month, when sensitive bids for a $10 million 0-cents waterfront project leaked, nearly tanking the deal, was starting to feel personal. The IT report had pointed to my access codes, but I hadn't touched those files. Was this part of the same plot? I locked the vault and headed for the garage, the storm's howl chasing me. As I slid into my car, the brakes felt off, spongy. I dismissed it as paranoia, but on the rain-slicked highway, they failed completely. I swerved, tires screaming, narrowly avoiding a semi before coasting to the shoulder. A mechanic later found the lines cut, traced to a shop with ties to our firm. Someone wasn't just stealing my legacy, they wanted me dead. The next morning, Seattle was still cloaked in gray, the Puget Sound a restless mirror of my mood. I sat in my Capitol Hill apartment, the share transfer folder open on my coffee table, its pages taunting me. I hadn't slept, my mind replaying every moment of the past 12 years. I'd been 9 when I first sat on my father's drafting table, sketching a clumsy floor plan he'd framed with pride. By 14, I was managing client calls, my voice steady even when developers barked demands. His promise, "This empire will be yours," had fueled me through college, where I graduated top of my class in architecture, and through every sacrifice since. I'd turned down a corner office at a London firm, a directorship in Sydney, all to stay here, to build Harper Designs into the leading force in the Northwest. And I'd done it. My systems, my vision, my grind had made us a name that rivaled the biggest players in Chicago and LA. But sacrifices have a way of piling up. My first serious boyfriend, Mark, walked out after I canceled our anniversary dinner for a client pitch. "You love this firm more than me," he'd said. And maybe he was right. The second, Ryan, lasted longer, but when I missed his sister's wedding to close a deal, he packed his bags. I told myself it was worth it, that every late night, every missed holiday, was a brick in the foundation of my future, even missing my cousin Lily's funeral. Her laugh still echoed in my dreams. Felt justified when I landed that $5 million 0-cents contract. But now, staring at that folder, I wondered if I'd been a fool. I needed answers, but first I had to survive the day. The board meeting at 10 a.m. was already looming like a guillotine. Investors had been rattled by an anonymous tip questioning my aggressive expansion plans that had doubled our portfolio in 3 years. I dressed sharply, a navy blazer and heels, my armor against the world. The Harper Designs headquarters, a sleek glass tower in Belltown, buzzed with morning energy, but I felt like an outsider. As I stepped into the boardroom, the air shifted. 10 suits stared at me, their eyes cold, led by Victor Crane, a venture capitalist with a shark's smile. "Emily, we're concerned," Victor began, his voice smooth as silk. "Your expansion into Portland and Vancouver? Too risky. We've heard reports of over-budget projects and mismanagement." My stomach dropped. Those reports were lies, and I knew it. Every project was under my thumb, tracked by the AI tools I'd built from scratch. Someone was feeding the board poison, and the timing, right after Olivia's return, was no coincidence. Olivia. My sister, 36, who'd breezed back into our lives 3 weeks ago after 15 years in Paris, painting murals and sipping espresso. She'd left Seattle at 21, dropping out of college to find herself, while I stayed, grinding through deadlines and crises. Our mother, Claire, had thrown a lavish dinner to welcome her, all candlelight and champagne in our waterfront mansion on Lake Washington. I'd sat across from Olivia, her silk scarf and effortless charm a stark contrast to my tailored slacks and tension headache. "You're killing it, Em," she'd said, her smile too bright. "Dad says you're the backbone of the firm." I'd nodded, polite, but her words felt like a pat on the head, not praise. The board meeting dragged on, Victor piling on accusations while I defended my record with data, revenue charts, client retention rates, project timelines. But the damage was done. As I left, my phone buzzed with a text from my assistant Mia. "William wants you in his office, now." My father's office was on the top floor, a shrine to his legacy with mahogany shelves and framed blueprints. He sat behind his desk, silver hair catching the light, but his eyes avoided mine. "Emily, big news," he said, his tone too cheerful. "Olivia's joining us as Chief Branding Officer. She'll redefine our image, new logos, slicker presentations, a global vibe. The market's changing, and we need her spark." My chest tightened. Chief Branding Officer? Olivia, who hadn't touched a blueprint in her life, was being handed a C-suite role? I'd spent a decade strategizing, negotiating, bleeding for this firm, and now she waltzed in to redefine it? "That's unexpected," I managed, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "What's her scope?" William waved a hand. "She'll handle marketing, client pitches, the whole aesthetic. You two will be a dynamic duo." Dynamic duo? The phrase hit like a slap. I'd been the sole heir, the one he'd groomed, and now I was sharing the spotlight with a sister who'd spent her life sketching Parisian cafes? I left his office, my heels clicking on the marble floor, and headed to a site inspection at the Meridian Tower project. The rain had let up, but the air was heavy, the construction site a maze of steel and concrete. I was checking the foundation specs when a groan echoed above, a crane's arm swinging wildly, its load of beams hurtling toward me. I dove behind a pillar, my heart pounding as metal crashed inches away, dust choking the air. The foreman swore it was a mechanical glitch, but the cut cable I found later told a different story. Someone inside the firm wanted me out of the picture, and the list of suspects was growing. Back at the office, I couldn't shake the unease. The crane incident, the hacked server, the anonymous tip to the board, it was all connected, and Olivia's arrival was the catalyst. I started digging, auditing records after hours when the office was empty. Budget reports from Olivia's new branding department showed oddities. Overpayments to a Parisian marketing firm, invoices with no clear deliverables. Was this the Paris agreement, mentioned in the share transfer? I needed more, but every step felt like walking through a minefield. The next blow came at 6 a.m., 2 days later. My phone lit up with a call from our biggest client, Helen Voss, whose $12 million 0-cents waterfront redevelopment was my brainchild. "Emily, I'm pulling out unless you personally redesign the community center plans by tomorrow," she snapped. "They're flawed and I don't trust anyone else." Flawed? I'd triple-checked those plans myself. When I pulled the files, I found subtle changes. Load-bearing walls shifted, budgets inflated, made under Olivia's login. It was a setup, designed to make me fail under impossible deadlines. I worked through the night, Red Bull and adrenaline my only fuel, but the pressure was crushing. By dawn, I'd salvaged the plans, but the damage to my reputation lingered. Then came the whistleblower leak. A local business journal published a scathing article claiming I was paranoid and destabilizing Harper Designs with my secret audits. The source? Anonymous, but the quotes echoed Olivia's polished phrasing. I faced a press conference that afternoon, cameras flashing, reporters grilling me about my instability. I held my ground, citing my track record, but the world was watching, and my father's silence was deafening. That night, I drove to our family's mansion for a dinner Claire insisted we have. The house, perched on Lake Washington, was all glass and cedar, a monument to our success. Inside, chandeliers glowed, but the air was thick with tension. Olivia set the table, her silk blouse pristine, while Claire fussed over a roast. William read the Wall Street Journal, ignoring me. I waited until dessert, then slid the share transfer folder onto the table, its weight silencing the room. "I found this in the vault," I said, my voice ice. "Care to explain why 75% of the firm is going to Olivia, with nothing for me?" Claire gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Olivia froze, her fork clattering. William's eyes met mine, hard and unyielding. "You were going to be told, Emily," he said, "when the time was right." "We married?" I shot back. "After you'd locked me out? I've carried this firm for 12 years, through recessions, lawsuits, your mistakes, and you give it to her?" I pointed at Olivia, who flinched. "She's been back 3 weeks, painting logos while I save your legacy." "Olivia brings vision," William said, his voice rising. "You're brilliant, Emily, but you're stuck in the old ways. We need her to compete globally." "Vision?" I laughed, bitter. "Her vision almost cost us Helen Voss's project. Or was that the plan? To sabotage me out?" Olivia spoke, her voice soft but sharp. "You're still vital, Em. We need your skills." "Vital? Like a cog in a machine she'd been gifted?" I stood, my chair scraping. "You've got your empire, Olivia. Let's see you run it." I walked out, the door slamming behind me, the storm outside matching the one in my heart. I didn't know it then, but that dinner was just the beginning. The crane, the brakes, the hacked server, they were warning shots. Someone was playing a dangerous game, and I was the target. The vault secrets, the Paris Agreement, the anonymous texts, they all pointed to a truth I wasn't ready to face. But I wasn't done. If my family thought they could erase me, they were about to learn who really built Harper Designs. This wasn't over, it was war. The Seattle skyline was a jagged silhouette against a bruised dawn, the kind of morning that felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I stood in my Capitol Hill apartment, the share transfer folder still open on my coffee table, its notarized pages a silent accusation. My name is Emily Harper, and for 12 years, I'd been the chief strategy officer of Harper Designs, the architectural firm my father, William Harper, built from nothing. I'd believed it was my destiny, my empire, until last night's discovery. A hidden email and a vault-sealed document revealed he'd signed it all over to my sister, Olivia, who'd spent 15 years painting Parisian sunsets while I bled for this company. The betrayal burned, but the anonymous text, "You're not safe," and the cut brake lines on my car last night told me this wasn't just about shares. Someone wanted me gone, permanently. I hadn't slept, my mind a war zone of questions. Who funded the sabotage? What was the Paris Agreement, tied to Olivia's share transfer? And why did that text mention the vault? I poured a third coffee, the bitterness matching my mood, and stared at the city below. Harper Designs' glass tower loomed in the distance, a monument to my sacrifices. 2 failed relationships, my cousin Lily's funeral missed, every late night spent perfecting AI-driven design tools that cut costs by 35% and tripled revenue. I'd turned down corner offices in London and Sydney, all for my father's promise. This empire will be yours. Now, it was Olivia's, and I was a footnote. My phone buzzed, snapping me back. It was Elliot, our veteran accountant, his voice low and urgent. "Emily, you need to come to the office. Now. It's about Skyline Green." My heart sank. Skyline Green was my $15 million 0-cents eco-tower project, a vision for sustainable urban living I'd pitched to investors like Victoria Lang. I'd poured 2 years into its blueprints, market studies, and timelines. If something was wrong, it wasn't a coincidence. I dressed in a charcoal suit, my armor, and drove to Belltown, the rain-slicked streets mirroring my unease. The Harper Designs headquarters buzzed with morning chaos, but Elliot's office was a quiet fortress of ledgers and monitors. He locked the door behind me, his face pale. "Olivia presented Skyline Green to the board yesterday," he said, handing me a USB drive. "As her own. Your name's nowhere on it." I froze, the words sinking in like poison. I plugged the drive into my laptop, and there it was. My presentation. Mint green slides, 4-phase rollout, word for word. My work. But stamped with Olivia R. Harper, Chief Branding Officer. My vision blurred with rage. This wasn't just theft. It was erasure. "How did she get it?" I demanded, my voice sharp. Elliot hesitated. "She accessed your secure drive. I saw the logs. William approved it." My father, the man who'd called my strategic overhaul operational maintenance while praising Olivia's global perspective. I gripped the desk, steadying myself. "There's more," Elliot said. "Victoria Lang's furious. She's threatening to sue unless you clarify the project's origins by noon tomorrow. She's at the Four Seasons, waiting." I left Elliot's office, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. Olivia's smugness at last night's dinner, her suggestion I remain a key player, replayed in my mind, each word a spark to my fury. She'd stolen my work, and William had let her, all while handing her 75% of the firm. I headed to the archive room, needing more evidence. The basement was a maze of file cabinets, the air thick with dust and secrets. I was rifling through old contracts when a faint smell hit me. Smoke. A spark flared in the corner, then a blaze, papers igniting like kindling. I grabbed my bag and sprinted for the exit, flames licking at my heels, coughing as smoke filled my lungs. I stumbled into the hallway, the fire alarm screaming, and collapsed against the wall, my suit singed. Security footage later showed a figure leaving minutes before, but the cameras mysteriously glitched. Arson to destroy the vault's secrets? Who was protecting Olivia's takeover? I drove to the Four Seasons, my hands shaking. Victoria Lang waited in a private suite, her silver hair and steely gaze commanding the room. "Emily, I trusted you," she said, tossing a copy of Olivia's presentation on the table. "This is your work. Why's her name on it?" I handed her the USB showing my time-stamped drafts, emails proving I'd built Skyline Green alone. "Olivia stole it," I said. "And my father covered for her." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "I'm pulling the contract unless you lead this project. No one else." I nodded, but her words were a lifeline and a noose. Without me, Harper Designs would crumble, but staying meant fighting a war on 2 fronts, against Olivia's schemes and whoever was trying to kill me. That night, I met William at a downtown cafe, its neon sign flickering in the rain. He looked older, his silver hair thinning, but his jaw was set, defiant. I slid the USB across the table. "Olivia stole Skyline Green. I have proof. Drafts, emails, timestamps. Remove her name or I go public to Victoria and the press." He leaned back, eyes cold. "It was a team effort, Emily. You're overreacting." I laughed. Bitter. Team effort? I built that project while Olivia was picking fonts. You signed 75% of the firm to her, erased me, and now this. I want her name off or I'll sue. I placed a second USB beside the first, labeled press release. His face paled, but he shook his head. You won't destroy your own legacy. I stood, leaving the drives. 2 days, Dad. Your choice. The next morning, danger struck again. I was crossing the office parking garage when a man in a ski mask stepped from the shadows, a knife glinting in his hand. "Drop the audit, or you're dead," he growled, pressing the blade to my throat. My heart pounded, but I kneed him hard, breaking free as he staggered. He fled, but his words echoed. Audit. Someone knew I was digging into Olivia's budget discrepancies, the offshore account I'd found with $2 million, 0 cents in unexplained transfers. Who hired him? The same person who cut my brakes? Set the fire? I reported it to security, but the cameras were, surprise, down again. The pressure mounted. Victoria's deadline loomed, and a rival firm, Cascade Architects, emailed me a bombshell, a CEO offer, $500,000, 0 cents salary, full creative control. It was tempting, a clean break from this snake pit, but leaving meant abandoning the firm I'd built. Then came Claire's call, her voice trembling. "Emily, come home. The firm's falling apart. Olivia can't handle it, and William's a ghost." I drove to the Lake Washington mansion, the place where I'd once felt safe. Claire met me at the door, her eyes red. "We lost Victoria's contract," she said. "Clients are defecting. Please, fix this." I shook my head. "You chose Olivia. Let her fix it." Her plea about legacy, family, cut deep, but I was done cleaning their messes. Then Olivia emailed, her subject line stark. I was wrong. She admitted stealing Skyline Green, claiming William pressured her and begged to meet at a Belltown cafe. I agreed, curiosity outweighing my anger. What game was she playing? At the cafe, her polished facade was gone, her hands twisting a napkin. "Dad's desperate," she said. "He'll offer 20% shares, co-director title, if you come back." I laughed, cold. 20%? I'm worth more than crumbs. I slid a notebook across, my terms scrawled in black ink. 45% ownership, board chair, CEO title, full control of Skyline Green. This, or I walk to Cascade Architects. Her eyes widened. 45%? That's half the firm. I leaned in. I saved this firm through 2 recessions, a lawsuit, and your incompetence. Take it to Dad, or I'm gone. The next day, a new threat emerged. I found an encrypted file in the vault, labeled Harper Legacy, password protected. Every attempt to crack it failed, but metadata showed it was created the day Olivia returned. What was it hiding? A clue to the Paris Agreement? The offshore account? Or something worse? I was still wrestling with it when William called, his voice tight. "Lawyer's office tomorrow, 10 a.m., we'll talk." I hung up, my pulse racing. This was it, the showdown. The lawyer's office was a sterile box in downtown Seattle, all glass and steel. William sat across from me, Claire beside him, Olivia absent. The lawyer, Harold, laid out William's offer. 20% shares, co-director. I pushed my terms forward. 45% board chair, CEO, Skyline Green. William's face reddened. "You're tearing this family apart." I didn't flinch. "You did that when you signed me out," Harold mediated, and after 2 hours, William caved. The deal: 45% equity from his shares, board chair, CEO title. Olivia kept 30%, Claire 25%. I signed, my hand steady, but inside I was shaking. Not with fear, but power. I returned to Harper Designs the next week, my name etched on the glass entrance, Emily Harper, CEO. The office felt different. Mine now. I overhauled everything. 40-hour work weeks, data-driven meetings, no more toxic grind. Olivia, demoted to branding, chafed but listened as I mentored her in budgeting, risk analysis, operations. She wasn't my enemy anymore, just a sister learning her place. Victoria reinvested in Skyline Green, upping it to $18 million, 0 cents, with me as lead. 6 clients returned, 3 investors pitched partnerships. William faded to an advisor, his era over, his input minimal. My new office overlooked Puget Sound, minimalist, with my original Skyline Green sketch framed beside a note from Elliot. Your vision saved us. Olivia grew, asking sharper questions, respecting boundaries. The firm thrived, but the encrypted Harper legacy file lingered, a mystery unsolved. Who was behind the sabotage? The offshore account? The Paris Agreement? What did they hide? I'd won this battle, but the war wasn't over. I wasn't just Emily Harper, the betrayed daughter. I was the woman who'd faced knives, fires, and lies, and claimed her empire. Power isn't given, it's taken. And I'd taken mine, inspiring anyone who's ever been erased to stand firm, fight back, and rewrite their story.